What's up, you guys? Steven here for Off the Shelf Movie Night to talk to you about physical media, about Blu-rays, 4Ks, and the way we like to buy and own our movies and TV shows and put them in a beautiful library. If you're a movie collector, want to be a movie collector, or want to just talk movies, I think you're in the right spot. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you like what you see in this particular video, a like and a share would be hugely appreciated. It really helps get the word out in the algorithm about what we are doing. And if you're new, let me know in the comments some stuff you'd like to hear me talk about, and, we'll add it to the to-do list. Right now, we're pushing 100. If you're new, pushing 100 is my New Year's resolution project where I'm trying to see 100 new release films in theater in 1 year. Now, this doesn't seem like it'd be that big a deal for movie people, and it wouldn't be if I was counting every movie that I've seen. But the new release caveat, we call that hard mode. My director of photography that works with me, co-producer on my film projects, calls it hard mode because he did this project, but he included everything he saw. Like, for example, I just saw over the weekend, he and I actually went together Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and saw all three of the original Star Wars trilogy in theater. Those don't count. Those don't count in this version in my hard mode attempt. I'm trying to just do new release movies. And I don't know if I've talked about what I think the point is. For me, the point is, one, just to celebrate cinema and celebrate the theater experience because it's important. It matters. There is magic in seeing movies in theater in a group of people and having that shared experience. It's celebrating that. Also, for me personally, it's pushing me out of my wheelhouse to try and see movies that I might not normally see because I've got to see a lot more movies than I might normally see, a lot more new release movies than I might normally see because, it's 100 is a lot. If you want to follow me more closely in this process, there's two places you can go. First is letterboxd. I'm only using letterboxd right now for reviewing movie theater releases. I put a few other things up there early on in the year, but I kind of just stopped and decided, let me just use letterboxd for now to cover everything I'm seeing this year in the theater. And I am trying to at least write a few words, if not more, about each movie that I see as we progress through this project. So that's one place. If you want to see the written reviews, the star scores, all that stuff. The other place is TikTok, because I do usually post videos as I'm going into the theater. Not into the auditorium, because I think that's, bullshit. Put your phone away when you're going to the auditorium. Put your phone away. Stop it. But in the lobby, buying my tickets, I'll usually have a little commentary or anticipation going into the movies, because I don't see one movie at a time. I usually see 2 to 3 movies in one sitting. So TikTok is a good place if you want to see it as it's happening. Otherwise, here about once a month or so, I try to do an update, talk to you about the previous month's movies that I saw, and keep it updated that way. So here we are. This is pushing 100 for July 2022. Movies I saw in July. I got a little behind. We had a big video project that we do every July that eats up 2 to 3 weeks of that month. And I just didn't have the time to see as many as I would normally have seen, but I am only about 2 behind where I should be. At this point in the year, I should be at about 55 or so films. I'm at 53, I think. So I'm only about 2 films behind. And I as I'm recording this, my plan is to rectify that this coming up weekend to see at least 2 new releases that are out. There's going to be some hot takes, I think, for the July films, because there were some big releases in July. I don't think I have necessarily the same feelings about some of these releases as the majority of you guys. I really hate it when I'm kind of not with my people, with my movie people. I don't necessarily hate it when I'm not with the mainstream. I don't care, because, there's a vast majority of people that just kind of go to the movies for cotton candy, and that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just not me. I'm more of a student of film than that, and I have probably higher expectations than a lot of people. My girlfriend says that. She says I have higher expectations than her. So anyway, let's dig into it. Let's look at, I'm going to pull up the Box Office Mojo calendar, and I'm going to just travel back in time to July 1st, and we'll talk about the films that I saw for the month of July 2022. First film on the list is Minions: Rise of Gru. Now, it was funny, building up to this movie, I'd seen the trailer in front of other movies that I was seeing back in June, and I remember thinking, I can't believe this franchise still exists. But I saw some other kids movie back in June, The Bad Guys. I saw The Bad Guys. And when that trailer played, the kids that were in the audience were all cracking up. They were so excited for it. So that's when I realized I'm out of the loop. This is for little kids, and that's okay. That's okay. Great. I was thinking, hopefully when I see it, because I knew I would, that it would be a great family experience. Like, it's going to be a movie for kids, but there's going to be some hidden jokes and some gags in there that are targeted to the parents who also have to sit in the room and watch it. And maybe I can relate to that aspect of it and enjoy it on that level. Then the movie came out. Then I saw it. And I didn't think it was very good. I thought it was pretty mid at best. The plot was very boring, and that's fine because, again, it's for little kids. You're going pretty basic plot-wise for little kids. But I didn't think it was very funny. There were a couple of things, that were kind of funny. There were maybe two times that I had a little smirk on my face at different scenes. And the thing that really stood out to me is that the kids in the theater weren't really laughing that much either. So that tells me that it didn't really succeed on either of the two levels, either appeasing the adults that had to take their kids or appeasing the kids that really wanted to go. And this whole stupid banana thing that was happening meme-wise with teenagers is just dumb. It's so disrespectful to movie theaters and disrespectful to the people who have to work in those theaters, going in there with your stupid bananas and leaving them in the theater after the movie's over and stuff like that. It's just stupid. It was stupid. And the movie didn't warrant it. It wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. So, it's not that it was bad. Yeah, okay, it was bad. But it wasn't a travesty. We'll get to that. It was, mostly just forgettable, right? Let me see. And that movie, of course, starred Steve Carell back in his, reoccurring role, Alan Arkin, Taraji B. Henson. Sorry, guys, you guys didn't really bring much to the table this time. So the next thing that I saw, I think we're going to get to something pretty. We're going to get to something pretty epic here. I'm just scrolling down the list. In July, there were a lot of limited releases that we didn't actually get in Nashville, which is surprising because our art house theater does a really great job. So the next movie on the list was Thor: Love and Thunder. And it has Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Christian Bale, Tessa Thompson. It's the crew, right? It's the crew. So notably, I was not a fan of Thor Ragnarok, and I know I was in the minority. So I like Thor as the fish out of water, as the overly egotistical guy. I like that kind of funny Thor, but I don't like stupid Thor. I don't like Thor as a buffoon. It just doesn't work for me. I don't like slapstick Thor. It doesn't work for me. To me, the best rendition of Thor was in Infinity War. He was funny. He had some emotional depth to him. And he was still a badass, which is what Thor should be, a badass. And I think in some weird ways he's kind of been depowered over the years. I didn't have a lot of anticipation of what Thor: Love and Thunder. I didn't anticipate watching it because I knew it was going to be more of the same, more of Thor Ragnarok. But I will say, going in, I tried to set my expectations properly based off Ragnarok, and knowing that this wasn't my Thor. This wasn't the Thor for me. But then I went in, and the first 3/4 of that movie, it feels like there has to be a joke every 2 minutes. I like this story. I'm familiar with the story from the comics that we're telling. The Natalie Portman becoming Thor, and also the God Killer, which was played by Christian Bale. The first thing is, the God Killer in the comics was scary. When he killed a god, it was important. It was epic. It was powerful. And in this movie, it's kind of just washed away in favor of jokes. Okay? And here's the thematic thing happening here. The other thing is Natalie Portman becoming Thor and how it impacted her having cancer in her human life was dramatic and interesting and emotional and powerful. And in this movie, it's played for jokes. And I'm serious. It's played for jokes. And I feel like most of you guys have seen it, so I'm not going to worry too much about spoilers, although I'm not going to get much into the plot. I feel like my mic is moving a little bit, you guys. So that bothered me because they missed some really great opportunities for storytelling. And then we had to anthropomorphize the hammer and the axe to the point where Thor has an emotional conversation with his axe. It's too far. It's if Waititi directs another one, I won't. I unless I'm doing another Pushing 100 or something, I'm not gonna go, because it's, stupid. It's just stupid. Now, the last act, while plot-wise, it doesn't work. It falls in on itself, especially the very final moments between Bale and Hemsworth. Emotionally, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought, well, okay, at least the last act is pretty good. And then that gets destroyed by the post credits scene. So, yeah, this movie is bad. It's bad. It's not the worst movie I saw in this month, but it's so disappointing. And I feel like the MCU is just becoming such a rinse and repeat thing. Like, it's the same formula over and over and over again. I don't know, you guys. I'm a Marvel guy, but I'm a movie guy. I'm a cinema guy. I understand when their creative impacts of the creators needs to be applied to a project. So when things move from paper to screen, they change. And sometimes because the creative people making the movie want to have some impact, and sometimes because it has to happen because it doesn't play as well cinematically as it does on paper. So I'm okay with all of that. This is not me being a fanboy and wanting perfect 100% adherence to source material. I just want good movies. And these are not good movies. This phase of Marvel overall has not been good. Doctor Strange was the best of the phase, and even 25 to 30% of it wasn't good. The Sam Raimi parts were pretty good, but yeah. So yeah, not only I wasn't just disappointed by it, I was annoyed by it because it was just so stupid. Poor Natalie Portman also. I think she's a good actress, but she's not she does not have comic timing. She's not funny, and when they tried to make her funny, it was cringy in the movie. Also, her becoming Thor is supposed to be like a big, epic, important moment, and it literally happens off screen. You don't see it. So, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And if you disagree, I'm fine to discuss it in the comments. I'm fine with that. We'll talk. All right, moving on. Scrolling through all these limited releases to get to the next thing that I watched. Sorry, it's just taking a second for me. Okay, Where the Crawdads Sing. This is based on a very popular novel. It stars Daisy Edgar Jones, Taylor John Smith, Harris Dickinson, and David Stratham, who is slumming it in this movie. He's slumming it because this is the worst movie I saw this month. I came out of this movie just mad. One, because the movie's bad. And if any parts of this movie are actually in the book, what the hell is wrong with people? Why are people loving this book so much? It was a weird amalgamation of people in the theater. It was one of the busiest movies that I went to this in the month, and it was either old, silver hair types or young to middle-aged women, And it's the story of a woman whose parents abandon her and she has to live in the marsh, on her own. And, she's discovered by a guy who brings her love and education. Men carry this woman throughout the movie, and her relationship decisions are infuriatingly stupid and very poorly directed and written in this movie. And there is a thriller aspect to the movie that is mostly a procedural, and the procedural is such a bullet-pointed mess that's just an excuse to get through the movie that, it made me feel like My Cousin Vinny was reality TV, that it was more real than this thing. This thing was terribly done, and this is where David Stratham comes in. And, it's not that he's bad. He's pretty good most times when he's acting. It's just this movie's really terrible. The main character, as written, is not well portrayed by the actress, and I don't necessarily just blame her. I also blame the directing. The woman who directed this movie, had to look her up afterwards, and she's done mostly TV, and it is very apparent that that's the case, because this doesn't look like a movie. It looks like an episode of some really half-rate midnight Hallmark TV show, not a movie at all. There's not a beat of good acting in this movie. There's not a beat of good cinematography in this movie. It's edited in such a bland way that there's no impact. This is awful. This is awful. Up to this point, I have complained and kind of laughed at Blacklight, the Liam Neeson movie I saw at the first of the year, as being like the worst thing I've seen this year. Nope. This is the worst thing I've seen this year. It's absolutely terrible. And like I said, if any of it is in the book, the hell's wrong with people? It's freaking terrible. I'm trying not to curse. Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. I gave it half a star because it's the lowest score I could give it in letterboxd. So I didn't see Paws of Fury yet. I know the Legend of Hank. I'll probably end up seeing it before it leaves theater, just because I need to be able to see a lot of things. I think there was only one more release for this month that I saw in the month. I also saw Elvis, the Baz Luhrmann movie. I don't like Baz Luhrmann, okay? I've not liked really, I didn't even like The Great Gatsby, and I know a lot of people did. I also don't like musicals, so I didn't expect much going into Elvis. And I like to call it Montage the Movie, because there's some beautifully done montage sequences in Elvis, but they're overused. If they were used for these epic moments in his career, in his life, whatever, they would have a lot of impact. But Luhrmann is a very gratuitous filmmaker, and he overdoes everything, and he overdid those. It felt like, Elvis has got to go take a dump. Let's do a montage of his walk to the bathroom. It's just overdone. That said, I kind of enjoyed it. Everybody talking about Tom Hanks being terrible. I think Tom Hanks was doing what Luhrmann wanted him to do. They just don't apply that same feeling to Austin Butler, because people feel like that's how Elvis was. But guess what? Butler was overacting too. Tom Hanks is not as bad as everybody says. Butler is not as good as everybody says. I hear people say, he sings Elvis so well you can't tell the difference. I'm not a fan of Elvis. I could tell a difference. It's like really good karaoke of Elvis. Now, I appreciate it. I prefer it to lip syncing. I think he did fine. But to say that he's so good you can't tell the difference between him and actual Elvis, that's hyperbolic and stupid. But if you like Baz Luhrmann, you probably enjoy this movie. And if you are, a big fan of Elvis, I think you probably enjoy it too, because there's some fun to be had. And it's actually surprisingly poignant at the end of the movie. So it was a pleasant surprise overall, gotta say. All right, so the last movie I saw for this month was Nope. This is the Jordan Peele movie. It stars Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Brandon Pereira, Michael Wincott. I'm not going to get into this one too much because it's still pretty fresh, and I don't want to be spoiling for people. I just want to say the first trailer that came out for this movie had me locked. I was hype. I was like, has a great visual style. Is mysterious in the trailer about what's happening. The second trailer came out and kind of ruined the movie. And as someone who's seen it, if you haven't seen it, I think the second trailer shows too much. After the movie was over, my feeling was that this movie was shot based on a treatment and not a completed script. It's like Peele came up with this cool gimmick and he thought, I got to make a movie based off this because this is a cool idea. And then he kind of pulls in some social commentary, which is part of his approach to filmmaking, and it's fine. But he didn't do any writing of the characters. Some of the characters have no backstory almost at all. Most of the characters have one scene that's pretty much their backstory, and that scene is used to define a later moment in the film more than it is to give you a multidimensional, interesting character. There's just a crap ton of questions about the characters and their motivations at the end of the movie. And it's not cool, vague questions. It's like, ooh, this really didn't get developed well. It really didn't get worked out. The story really didn't get finished. This movie needed 2 or 3 more passes on the script. And when I came out, because the performances were so good, Keke Palmer, I loved her performance. I hated her character. Not her fault. Her performance was great. Daniel Kaluuya, also very good. Very good performance. But anyway, let me get back on my train of thought. So the performances were good. The cinematography was quite beautiful for a change. This is the most visually concise and developed film that Peele has done, and bringing Christopher Nolan's DP probably helped a lot with that. And those things impacted me coming out of the movie. I was like, okay, 50-50. It's 2.5 out of 5. The movie hasn't rested well. The lack of story is starting to impact my feeling on the movie, and I like it much less now than I did. It's not that good. I didn't like Us either. I thought Us was a mess of a story. And it's funny, I complained that Us was exposition the movie. Let's just have the characters tell you the story, so to make sure you understand what's happening. And this one's the opposite. It doesn't have any writing, so it's almost like Peele was listening to me and said, hey, okay, that's what you want? Well, here you go. I'm not going to write anything. I know I'm in the minority. I know. Most people really love this movie. It's like 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not that for me. It's like 35 or 40%. There's some beautiful things about the movie, but the story's not finished. It's not finished cooking. It needs to go back in the oven for a little while longer. Okay, well, there are my, I guess, maybe hot takes for the month of July. That's what I saw. The numbers are down a little bit, so coming into August, I've got to make up some time, pick up a few extra films here for pushing 100. Let me know what you think. Let's talk about these movies in the comments. Happy to have a conversation. Until next we meet, pull something cool off the shelf, share it with friends and family, remind them why physical media is the best way to watch films and TV at home. Outside of that, go to the theater.